Gaia should have never been created. She should have
Right.
never received all those powers, and she should not be leading a team moving forward. So, newsflash, buddy, wrong decision. All right. Welcome to another episode of Only Comics. I'm Mike. This is Adrian.
Hello, hello, hello.
What's up, man?
Everything's lovely, baby. It was some fall.
Absolutely.
Weather's beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm in my moment right now.
Yeah, this is like your element. You've been waiting all year for this shit.
Oh, yeah. Yep. I just, got my flip-flops on, got my shorts on.
Yep.
I'm ready to roll.
That's how we do it. Got the Black Panther hat
Yep,
going. You don't have the
yep.
Black Adam hat, though. Not today.
No, not yet. Not yet.
Not today. But anyways, here we are another week. Adrian, we are going to go through, like we say every week, the multiverse of comics. And we're going to fight off stupid opinions, directors, all kinds of stuff. Just
Right.
we're going to be fighting opinions, perspectives. But we got a new segment this week, Adrian. So
Okay.
we'll give them a little spoiler. You don't even know much about this.
Nope.
So we wrapped up Kings of the Comics last week, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I said we're going to have a new segment. I didn't know what it was. And one of the things that we do on this show better than anyone, Adrian, is we agree to disagree. I don't get offended. As far as I know, you don't get offended.
I don't get offended.
You like Christian Bale as your favorite Batman. I don't.
Yep.
Right? We'll never agree on that, and neither one of us is going to storm out of here and be upset, right? So we're a segment. We're gonna do this after Hidden Gem. I got 10 statements prepared for you, 10 that I all agree with.
Okay.
And I'm gonna rapid fire them at you, and you're gonna tell me if you agree or disagree, and you can shit all over them if you want. So I think that we'll try it out this week, and if it's fun, if we like it, we'll keep doing it. We got some news flash, buddy. We got that coming, and then we have a little deep dive into Loki season 2, episode 1.
Yep.
We were just saying like a week ago, like, man, there's nothing new out. Like, we're over here reviewing movies from a few years ago and stuff, and I'm like, I forgot. I remember I called you. I'm like, dude, did you even know Loki was coming out? Like,
I did
completely forgot.
And then it didn't drop until, 9 o'clock last night or something?
Yep.
Yeah, or the night before.
Something like that. Yeah, and it was later. Normally they used to do them Wednesdays, but now they're Thursdays. So who knows? But anyways, we'll get into that later. But before we do that, as always, we jump into our news first. And a couple things. The news a little brief this week, but there's some Avengers news, okay, or rumors. And I love we hear a lot of this on this show, Adrian. These trusted sources,
right?
You know? And I do that because I'm like, that's just the studio leaking shit, right?
Right.
It's no one's just guessing all these things that happen to be true. So one of these trusted sources says that Kang Dynasty, okay, and Secret Wars, those are the next 2 Avengers movies. And with the strike being over, I'm sure they're back to work on these as far from a writing standpoint. But we're not going to see these for another probably, I think, 3, 4, 5 years, right?
Right.
Kang Dynasty. The rumor is the 616 Avengers team. That's the Avengers team we're used to,
Right.
From that universe. They fight the Council of Kangs and lose, okay? We saw in, I don't know what it was. I think, Ant-Man. You didn't see the new Ant-Man.
No.
At the end of the movie, there's a post-credit scene where there's, infinite amount of Kangs.
Okay.
And we're talking about Loki later. If you remember, in the end of the first season, He Who Remains, who's a Kang variant, was killed by a Loki variant. Mm-hmm. And then He Who Remains warned that Loki variant, Sylvie, that if you kill me, it's going to release infinite amounts of me. Like,
Correct.
I'm the one right now keeping this in order. Kill me, it's a wrap. So that happens. Mm-hmm. We see this infinite, amount. I guess they're called the Council of Kangs, according to this rumor. Rumor is Kang Dynasty, those Avengers fight that council and lose. We don't know if this is true. Assuming it is, that kind of sounds a little bit like Infinity War, right?
Yeah.
They fought Thanos and lost, which, I love that movie. How do you feel if that is the case? Do you think that's a good premise, good setup for the next movie?
I think it works. I think it makes sense. Considering how successful the other two-parter was for the Avengers. So I think it works.
Yeah.
The other thing is that my man's all over the place, right?
He is.
I mean, Avengers as Kang.
Yep.
He's in. I mean, I thought it was a Kang show.
Yeah, right.
The premiere of Loki season 2.
Absolutely.
But so that says a lot about Marvel Studios. It says a lot about Disney. It says a lot about this trial. It says a lot about the actor. So, good for him. I hope he's able to reprise his role and, get back in the saddle and do his thing.
Yep.
So it was just interesting to see how much of him that we saw, as opposed to how little of your Flash boy, we saw during the premieres of his movie. So interesting stuff.
Yeah, that's a good point, because during the promo for Loki season 2, you see him in all the trailers, Jonathan Majors. And you're talking about Ezra in the Flash. Dude, I thought it was a Michael Keaton movie for a long time. I almost forgot Flash was even in it.
Right.
So, and I'm with you. I that sounds decent. I mean, that's not a lot of information, but the OG Avengers team. Now, here's the thing. We don't know what that team looks like, because a lot of these guys are older, retired, dead, whatever the case may be. So who knows what that team's going to look like. But they fight the Council of Kangs, lose. Cool. Secret Wars. This is supposed to be. This is the movie that's rumored to almost reboot the MCU, soft reboot, which we've discussed here, and I think at least I think it's a good idea to kind of do a soft reboot after this. But the rumor about Secret Wars is the TVA, so the Time Variance Authority, which is in. Mainly featured in Loki. Your first time we saw it there. They send a team of multiversal Avengers that they have secretly recruited. Now here's where we get led by Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, and Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool to save the 616 Avengers and defeat the Kangs once and for all. Now, I hear this, and you're talking about the two-parter, right? Infinity War Endgame. And if you remember, but in Endgame, we see a Thanos and kind of villain team from another universe come to the 616 universe to fight the Avengers. This kind of sounds like the opposite, right? We got the Council of Kangs, which they're just from everywhere, but we have these Avengers from other universes coming to 616 to fight with them, which, I mean, it's interesting, it's intriguing. So I guess, football, when there's a penalty, throw a flag. I'm not throwing any flags on this. I think if they're going with this, I'm cool with it. Tobey Maguire led Spider-Man. I mean, I get it for the nostalgia, sure. Can never go wrong with Hugh Jackman. Seeing him play Wolverine a couple more times, I'm for it. I'm not one of those guys where he shouldn't. And Ryan Reynolds, man. I mean, so I hear this, and dude, I like I said, no flags for me. I like it. What about you?
I think it's interesting that they've chosen those three.
Yeah.
Even though Spider-Man's very intelligent. A lot of people aren't really aware of that. He's intelligent. He's witty.
Yeah.
He's had some tutelage from in 616. He's had some tutelage from Anthony Stark.
Yep.
He's got some tech. So my only concern is that neither one of these guys have actually been in a serious leadership role. Spider-Man is usually solo. Wolverine is typically solo.
Yeah.
He typically is on the back burner to Scott in the X-Men. And what's his face?
Ryan Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds. Yep. He's solo.
Yeah.
But he's like so. It's going to be interesting to see these three go and save the universe.
Right.
Because they've never really done anything of. Well, I can't say never really, because Spider-Man, he's done some stuff.
Yeah.
Deadpool has just been, he's just like basically shit all over everybody, comically. And Wolverine is so serious. I mean, he wouldn't necessarily take a leadership role, but I mean, they've done some stuff, but it would be interesting to see these three pull it off.
Yeah.
And I just hope they don't try to make, because like I said, Spider-Man's whimsical. Deadpool is funny, and Wolverine, he's angry funny.
Right.
So I just hope they don't make this into like a Thor, Love and Thunder kind of an event.
But hearing you say that though, I hear about these three characters where they've never been in that role might add a level of like intrigue to this, right? Like where Deadpool, in the second Deadpool, he forms the X-Force kind of, and then it all falls apart, right? And then to your point, Wolverine's never really wanted to be that leader. He wanted to just criticize the leader and do things his own way. And you're right. I mean, Peter Parker's only done shit by himself, this version of him anyways. Because that's the other thing. This is a Tobey Maguire one.
Right.
You know, it's not the Tom Holland one who's been in the Avengers and whatnot. Now, we did see the Tobey Maguire one work with the other two Spider-Men in No Way Home, so there's a little bit of that there. But, yeah, I think that would add to the intrigue if done right. And I'm with you. Deadpool's funny. I'm very excited, interested, and also hesitant to see this merger of Deadpool and the MCU, because Deadpool's its own thing.
Right.
And it's a lot of comic relief. It's very meta, and it's not that it can't work. I'm sure, I mean, with the right people behind the pen or whatnot, it could work, but I'm interested to see how that works out, because it seems like a square peg in a round hole.
Yeah. But I'm like you. I'm also excited to see Hugh Jackman come back, so I can see him in any phase or any version or any variant or any movie.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. But you're right. Deadpool. So I'm not concerned about the trio.
Yeah.
I'm just concerned about how Disney and Marvel will execute.
Yeah. Absolutely. Wolverine coming back. I'm definitely cool with seeing that a little bit more. Now, let me ask you, from a Wolverine movie standpoint, right? Yeah. He's been in a lot of X-Men movies. He's got 3 solo films. I think, Logan's the best one. You'd agree with that?
Right.
Yeah. Now, the first one, very hit or miss, like up and down. Decent parts, some really bad parts. The Wolverine was okay. So would you feel different about Hugh Jackman reprising Wolverine if he had like an iconic, not that he didn't have an iconic run, but if he had like Captain America, for example.
Yep.
Chris Evans. Great trilogy.
Right.
Each movie got a little bit better. Very integral to the overall story. We saw a lot of character growth. There was not a bad movie there. The first one, pretty good. Winter Soldier, amazing. Civil War is one of my favorite MCU movies. Chris Evans is done. If he never plays Captain America again, I'm good.
Right.
Wolverine didn't have that same huge. He had Logan, and then he had a couple movies. X-Men 1, okay. X2, really good. X3, atrocious. So he's been hit or miss. If he had a run like Chris Evans, would you want him to not reprise it? Like, does that play into you? Does that play into it at all for you, where he's not had this amazing series of movies, so we kind of want to see him get another stab at it?
Well, considering Hugh Jackman is playing Wolverine, like I said, I don't have a problem with him showing up anywhere.
Yeah.
I do feel that he could do even a Wolverine reboot.
You'd be okay with that.
Another trilogy, right? Like I said, I've always said there's so many adventures in the comic book world.
Yeah.
Wolverine has his own comic book itself.
Yep.
So he's had plenty of adventures, and he can continue to have plenty of adventures. So I wouldn't be opposed to a Wolverine reboot.
Yeah.
But he can also definitely pop up in other places, which is what he does. You know, Alpha Flight in Canada.
Yep.
Which is also part of the Hidden Gem. The X-Men, of course, the mutants, he shows up. I mean, he's kind of all over the place, so I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah, gotcha. All right, next, Spawn. We've not talked about Spawn much on here. Are you a Spawn fan?
Not really. I mean, I saw the movie.
Yeah.
It was, interesting when it came out at the time. The concepts were different.
Yeah.
But I didn't follow him in the comics.
All right, so you never read Spawn comics.
And so it was kind of like they never really promoted him. So I wasn't really interested in it.
Got it. There's a show that was turned into, it's an HBO series. It was released as a 2-part movie as well, animated show. That's amazing. It's very adult. It's nothing like nothing you'd want any kid to watch.
Right.
But I now Spawn was big in like the 90s, right? That was around the time this movie came out. I love Spawn. I hadn't read a ton of Spawn comics. I watched the animated series and I saw that movie. Now, Spawn news, there was a reboot announced back in 2015, 8 years ago now. And the reboot was reported to have Jamie Foxx signed on to play Spawn. Right. Al Simmons, I believe is the name. Michael J. White played him in the first Spawn.
Right.
Which, that movie, it was made in 97. The special effects are, I They're the special effects.
Right.
They're not that special.
Right.
But I enjoyed that movie for what it was. I really liked John Leguizamo as Clown, and I thought Michael J. White was a great Spawn.
Yeah.
Like he was very true to the comic, or even the animated series. Now Jamie Foxx's Spawn, I think he can pull it off. Jamie Foxx is insanely talented. Yeah. We've seen him bulk up for roles and stuff, so he can put on some mass. So I like the casting, but the rumor or the news that came out about this is it's basically back on. Like it was, paused for a minute, or it was kind of like in like this development phase forever. But I guess right after the strike was resolved last week, or I'm sorry, when the strike started, they were in the middle of writing the script. So they were heavily working on this film. So it looks like this movie is set to be released in 25 is what they're saying now. So it's back on track. So I'm excited for this because of, what I like I said, I enjoy Spawn, but also I do really like, I like that old movie, Adrian, the 97 one, the same way I like the early 90s Ninja Turtle movies.
Sure.
They're not amazing. They don't stand up to the stuff today, but it's like, it just has a special place with me because it was the best we had at the time.
Well, I mean, you're comparing it to today's special effects,
right?
The expansion of the Marvel and DC universes, things like that. But in '97, there were also not as many comics, comic book movies out as they are today. So you don't have that compare and contrast. Yeah. But for '97, like you said, it was the special effects. The special effects were the special effects. But so it was good. Yeah. I liked Michael J. White. I don't understand why they just don't reprise him. They bring back all these other Crypt Keepers. Hey, he's still fit. He's still doing his thing. Yeah. So, but I also think that, Jamie Foxx would do a good job as Spawn as well, too. He's done so much dynamic stuff. I didn't like him as Electro in Spider-Man, but it was kind of corny. Right. But,
you didn't like him in the original one, the Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Correct.
Did you like the reprisal that he had in No Way Home?
No.
No? See, I thought and this we'll disagree and we won't get upset. But I liked it. I feel like he got his shine. And I like the presentation. He looked like Electro.
Right.
The one in Amazing Spider-Man 2 where he just looks like something out of Avatar, the whole blue. I mean, my man Jimmy.
All right, Jimmy.
So I don't know if it was epic enough for you, Jimmy, but yeah, I actually really like what he did, or what he was allowed to do with Electro in No Way Home. But you're right, we've seen him in so many other movies where, I mean, things like Ray. I mean, that was amazing. Right. I mean, no, it's not comic related, but like we say always here, we talk about comics and only comics, and sometimes some other stuff.
Sometimes some other stuff.
Sometimes so. But Jamie Foxx led Spawn reboot. I'm all for it. Can't wait. Hope it does come out in 2025.
It would definitely be interesting to see, especially considering following the wake of the Avengers movies. I mean, everything that's basically come out. You have these directors have had an opportunity to see what works, what doesn't work. They are now tuned in to Only Comics. They're following us, so I'm sure they're listening to us as well. So if
they're smart.
Well, they're right. If they're smart, so they should know what to be able to put into a movie moving forward. And I also think that this writer's strike is probably gonna push them over the edge too. It's unfortunate that it happened, but I'm sure some good stuff is gonna come out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Last piece of news, and I'm gonna bet, Adrian, when we're said and done with this last piece of news, that that we're gonna give the Buster Award to this piece of news here, okay? Because Emilia Clarke, this goes back. We've not talked much about Secret Invasion. The Flash just kind of eternally lives on this show,
right?
Secret Invasion was bad. They both were bad, but Secret Invasion was bad in a different way.
Right.
And we've not talked about much of this, or much about this since it was debuted or finished up. But in that show, one of our biggest issues, we definitely agreed on this, was Emilia Clarke's Gaia. And most importantly, most specifically, the end of the show, when she gets all of the powers from everyone who's ever fought an Avenger, and their family and everyone else. She may even have some DC powers. I don't know. But that was one of the dumbest things I've ever seen the MCU do. Right. The news behind this, though, Adrian, you're going to love this one. You're going to be jumping up and down. So the rumor is that character, Gaia, she's going to return soon, and she is going to be leading a new team of British-based superheroes. So not only is she more powerful than everyone in the MCU, she's now going to have a team to lead. And this is like, I don't like this character at all. I don't ever want to see Gaia again with not this version where she's all super powerful, because the problem with this is you're going to have to either nerf her or create other characters that are equally or more powerful. Right. And then it's like we just keep going up this crazy scale. Like, where does it end?
Right. We keep escalating.
Yeah. I mean, I don't like this at all. I would assume you don't, but what's your thought on this?
I don't like, first of all, when I heard that Emilia Clarke was going to be in this, I was kind of excited, Game of Thrones and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then, she came out as a fifth-tier person in the movie. I mean, I was struggling to even figure out what her role was or why was she important and why did they put someone at an Emilia Clarke level into this movie, right? And then, they, on top of all that, they dressed her down like little boy Fauntleroy. Over big clothes, so she looked, even smaller than she actually is.
Right.
And then we suffered through this whole Secret Invasion movie. And then at the very end, she's got all these powers, more power than everybody else in the universe, right? But she's walking down the streets of London. Walking. Why is she walking?
Can't she just, like, teleport somewhere? Like, fly?
Whatever. But, I mean, so then Sonya, I mean, I guess theatrically it's convenient. Sonya pulls up in a car, and, they strike this deal, I guess. And that's is going to be what they're going to produce, this team or whatever.
Right. Yeah, so it's not – we should have seen it – or we did see this coming, her leading a team. But I guess I kind of mentally blocked that out because of how bad the show was. And also, like, there are things that are teased that don't always happen, and I wish that was one of them.
Right.
I wish when they teased Gaia and Sonya working on a team together, I wish that it was just a tease, and then they drop that storyline and do something else. I love Sonya. Great character.
Right.
Gaia, not so much.
Right.
I don't want to see her again.
Right. Now, I didn't. I must have missed the team thing. I understood that they were going to work together.
Yeah.
However way they were going to do it, but I didn't see a team because it's completely unnecessary.
Yeah.
She probably picked up somebody's power to split herself into her own team. So, I mean, I don't see the point, and I agree. Right. I don't want to see this character because, first of all, it doesn't make sense that she has the power that she does.
No.
The biggest problem is that they aren't going to be able to portray that successfully. They're not going to be able to present that. I mean, Disney, Marvel on the screen. They're not going to be able to present her power properly. Right. Because the way they did it in Secret Invasion was ridiculous. Yeah. They can't get Captain Marvel's power properly. It's just it's a weird feeling that I'm just going to be disappointed. So, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yes, that's the thing too. We could watch this and it could be the greatest thing ever. And I will show up here, Adrian. I'll sit across from you, and I will admit to it being the greatest thing ever.
And I agree with you. I mean, it could be another Matrix, man.
Yeah. Well. Next. But on this note, Adrian, do you disagree that our buster this week is whoever made this fucking decision?
I do not disagree that the buster this week is whoever made this decision.
Got it. So newsflash, buddy. Gaia, Emilia Clarke, should have never been created. Well, Emilia Clarke should have been created, but Gaia should have never been created. She should have never received all those powers, and she should not be leading a team moving forward. So, newsflash, buddy, wrong decision.
Another thing is, you read in there somewhere about Kit, the guy that's going to be playing the Black Knight. He was also in Game of Thrones. Is this one of these couples that they can't make a movie without each other or something?
Maybe.
I don't know. Like, who's that couple that always made movie? You Got Mail.
I can't remember.
Yeah, long time ago. Anyway.
Yeah, gotcha. But yeah, hey, maybe. Yeah, and this Kit character, or the character he plays, we've not seen in the MCU yet. This is a new one they're talking about.
Yeah.
Got it.
Well, they talked about it in the article, but they also teased it at the end of Eternals.
I gotcha.
So, him on the hill, and the Eternals came and picked up the Elementals or whoever they were.
Gotcha.
That crew.
Well, that's our buster this week. Disney, Marvel, whoever the hell's writing this shit and decided to create this character, and then thought that she sucks so bad that we should just continue to use her, right? Why not?
In her oversized clothes.
Yeah, oversized clothes and her overpowered powers. Right. So anyways, but all right, moving on. That's our Newsflash segment. And up next, Adrian, we have your segment. Your segment is Hidden Gem.
Yep.
So the Hidden Gems, these are characters that they've not really got a lot of shine on the big screen, right? Mm-hmm. They're kind of, I wouldn't say really obscure. They're maybe forgotten about characters, mm-hmm. right? Because we've had Captain Marvel's Binary on here,
right?
We've had, you mentioned Alpha Flight. We had the Guardian.
Right.
We've had Nova. We had Constantine. Firestorm was last week. Doctor Doom. So Doctor Doom's a very popular character.
Right.
But notice, when's the last time you've really seen him in anything big, major?
Right.
So that's what the Hidden Gem is, you know, essentially. So, Adrian, Hidden Gem, who do we got this week?
All right, so this week, we have talked about superheroes. Mm-hmm. We've talked about supervillains. We've talked about godlike characters. This week, we're going to talk about monsters. The Hidden Gem this week is actually what got me into Wolverine.
Okay.
So one of the first covers or images that I saw of Wolverine was when he was fighting this character. And this character's name is Wendigo. Mm. And Wendigo is a Canadian-based mythical creature. And he is born from anyone that eats of human flesh in Canada or upper Northern America. They are taken over by this Wendigo spirit, and they turn into this beast. This beast is not unlike a werewolf, but it's more severe. Yeah. Think of werewolf on steroids. It's taller, it's faster, stronger, so on and so forth. So this Wendigo, so the first cover I think I saw was Wolverine and Wendigo going at it.
Yeah.
And that's actually what attracted me to Wolverine, and I followed him. And, of course, Wendigo was just kind of a one-off thing.
Got it.
But Wendigo has also fought Alpha Flight, also fought Hulk. So he's kind of popped around, and because he's a beast per se, he doesn't have his own comic, but, I mean, he's appeared in quite a few things.
Yeah.
So very tall, some say up to 15 feet or at least 7 feet or taller. Very strong. That's a range too. It's been, he can carry a couple of people through the snow, but also up to like 75 tons. Okay. So lifting. So almost like Cyclops level. Not Cyclops. Colossus from the X-Men.
Yeah.
Strength level. His feet, the claws on his hands and feet are strong enough to actually hurt the Hulk, to actually tear through the Hulk's skin.
Wow.
Which is usually only reserved for adamantium, Wolverine's claws, right?
Yeah.
Very fast. Some got him running up to, over 100 miles an hour, and some just say he can move faster than, the human eye can follow. Mm-hmm. But so these are humans that were, again, once you eat flesh in the Canadian wilderness, you are taken over by this Wendigo spirit, and your human part goes away.
Yeah.
So eating of flesh makes the transformation, and then you only crave human flesh after that.
Wow.
So you're just basically roaming through the woods, the Canadian wilderness, hunt for people to eat kind of a deal.
Yeah.
And the reason I bring him up is because I haven't seen him in anything. I haven't seen him. I'm not saying he's not been out or it hasn't been out.
Nothing live action.
Yeah. nothing live action, nothing in print even, and for me probably 20 years maybe. But a very formidable character. And I just think he's interesting enough because of who he's even fought. Because we talked about Alpha Flight a few weeks back.
Yeah,
he's fought that team. Snowbird, also part of Alpha Flight. Like I said, the Hulk and also Wolverine. So I think he was also drawn by the art is also what attracted me because he was part of a John Byrne's portfolio.
Okay.
So that also got me. So Wendigo,
nice
Canadian mythical beast. I think they could I think he could be like an antagonist in an upcoming movie for somebody.
Yeah. Well, when you're explaining him, it makes me think of that show, the one-off that Marvel did, the black and white one. What the hell is it called? Something by Night.
Werewolf by Night.
Werewolf by Night. Yeah.
Yep.
You seen that?
I have not.
Yeah.
I have not seen that. I saw it. It was in black and white. I couldn't force myself. It was kind of like watching Moon Knight.
Yeah.
I still haven't got past episode 2 of Moon Knight.
Oh yeah.
So it's just kind of it just struck me as initially hard to watch.
Gotcha. It starts off a little slow. It's enjoyable. I mean, I will watch it again just because I don't remember everything about it, but it reminds me of some of the even the werewolf and some creatures, like it would fit well with those types of characters. So to your point, I think it could be pulled into live action. And I think what's interesting about it is, like, I've heard of Wendigo. I've never read any of the comics. I know that he fought Wolverine. I've definitely seen that comic, never read it. But I think what the interesting part about this character is it's based off of a real, like, urban legend, right? Like, and I think that's what's cool about, like, and I don't know if DC does much of that. I know Marvel does, like, Thor and the whole Norse mythology, they play into. So I like that aspect of Marvel Comics where they pull in, like, real life urban legends, real life beliefs, fictional gods or whatnot.
Right.
So I think that's pretty cool. But I would definitely be down with seeing this character somewhere. He has been in a handful of video games. So
right.
I also remember him from one of the Wolverine games. I want to say maybe the X2 game, which was like an early, probably PS2, PS3, something like that. But I remember fighting him in that, which was pretty cool. And I did read that he was in a few, like, one-off episodes of some animated shows, like Wolverine and the X-Men. I guess there is an episode of Wolverine versus the Hulk, and he appears in that, and then a couple of Avengers shows. But it's just like a one-off thing. They've not seen much of him.
Right.
Now, in the comics, is it one particular individual who becomes Wendigo, or is it different, depending on the story?
Well, initially when it first came out, it was only one Wendigo at a time.
Okay.
So if one person ate of human flesh, that person became the Wendigo, and there was no other. And then at some point they switched it to where there was like a whole tribe of Wendigo. But basically what happens is, so eating of the flesh turns you into the Wendigo. If you could somehow get the heart of a Wendigo out and you ate the heart, then you can also become the Wendigo.
Okay.
So it was only when I started reading it, when I first read about him, it was only one. So it's not any particular one, particular person.
Just one at a time.
But it's just one at a time.
Yeah.
And eating of the flesh is what starts the transformation.
I'll do it.
The other thing is that I left out is about his durability. So he's basically has like Wolverine kind of healing factor.
Yeah.
But besides the fact that his fur, protects him from the Arctic weather and makes him very durable and all this other kind of stuff. So I mean, it's said that you could basically pull his heart out and he would still survive. He survived like decapitations, things like that. So very durable, very formidable opponent in the Marvel universe. And I also agree with you that Marvel goes into other myths, Norse mythology, Greek mythology, Indian, African. This was the Algonian.
Yeah.
Algonquian. definitely.
Yeah, I know the word you're trying to read, but I don't know how to pronounce it either.
Right. So I'm definitely, butchering that.
Yeah.
But so forgive me. But it's based on. I'm assuming they're Indian.
Yeah.
So it's based on a Native American, not Native American, but a Native Indian tribe.
Yeah.
Legend. So, and I love the fact that they delve into all these other things. They bring up all these different, types of things. They pull from an entire multiverse of characters to put into that comic. So I love that about Marvel.
Yeah, absolutely. What's funny is I read that the Algonquin, whatever, however you say it, people include and have included historical populations in Mohegan of Connecticut, of all places. Yeah, so there's a casino right up the road then,
right.
Yeah, some in Mass, so a lot in this area, New England and stuff like that. But yeah, I agree. I love the fact that they pull from all these different mythologies, and I think, both DC and Marvel have their strong suits. I think that's one of the things that Marvel really does well. And then we've talked about this before. I love how DC creates a fantasy world with these, Gotham and Metropolis and what's the damn city, Flash? I don't know, Ezra City or whatever it's called.
Right,
Central City.
Central City.
Yeah, not Ezra City. But, so they both have their strengths and weaknesses, but I definitely like that about Marvel. So, hey, Wendigo, that's a hidden gem. Now, he fought Wolverine. Who won in that comic? I'm assuming Wolverine.
I forget who won, but, there was no death or whatever. But I think he just kind of, went off into whatever.
Someone will correct us in the comments and
tell
us who won. So, cool. All right. Well, there you have it. Wendigo. Now, Adrian, I told you I was going to have a new segment ready, right?
Yeah.
And this is we'll be straight up with you guys. I did not discuss this with you. I didn't tell you about this outside of what you heard a few minutes ago. So I have 10 statements that I put together that I say are true to me.
Okay.
We're going to play a game called Agree to Disagree.
Okay.
I'm a rapid fire, so quick answers. You can throw shit. You can throw flags on these if you need to. All right, number one.
Yep.
Infinity War is a better movie than Endgame.
Infinity War is a better movie than Endgame. Infinity War is a better movie than Agree.
Number two. Disney ruined Star Wars.
Agree.
Okay, that was easy. Tom Holland is the best Spider-Man.
Agree.
Wow. Spiderweb should only come out of web shooters, not your arm.
Definitely agree.
Damian Wayne is the best Robin.
Agree.
Wow. Damian should become Batman.
Disagree.
Cap should have let Bucky die.
Agree.
WandaVision is the best MCU show to date.
MCU show?
Show.
WandaVision.
Yep. Over Loki, over Cap, over Secret Invasion.
Oh, yeah. I agree.
Robert Pattinson is the best Batman.
No.
And last one, Christian Bale has the worst Batman voice.
Agree.
Wow. Look, dude, there's only one you didn't agree with.
Yeah.
All right. I got to come a little harder next week.
Which one was that?
It was the Damian should become Batman.
I don't, because that would change what we understand Batman to be. In Batman Beyond, when Terry, whatever his name was, McGinnis,
right?
became the new Batman. It was different, but it was along the principles of the old Batman. He was guided by Bruce Wayne.
Got it.
And if Damian became Batman, because when Robin put on Batman's suit, he shit on him.
Yeah.
Like, you don't even, people are going to find out in 2 seconds that you're not really the Batman. Right. So I think if he became Batman, it would be a completely different character altogether.
Yeah. And when I say that, I don't mean mainline Batman. And this is rapid fire, so obviously it wasn't it. But I don't mean replace the Batman. But I would love to see one of these Elseworld stories, these offshoots, where a grown adult Damian is Batman after years of working with Batman, being coached, because he's obviously kind of given up the whole killing thing, right?
Right.
But he reminds me of Red Hood a little bit, where he's going to play nice with the Bat family enough, but he's still going to do his own thing and be a little extra aggressive and extra violent.
I'm not sure he would play nice if he had a choice. If Bruce wasn't, in the way, I don't think Damian would play nice at all.
Maybe.
I don't believe that he would dismiss him.
Yeah.
I don't believe that he would not work with him, but it definitely would not be a Bat family per se.
I got the perfect scenario. Writers, listen up, okay? You got Batman. He's dying, right? And then his dying fucking wish to Damian Wayne, whatever the count, when y'all figure out, when you finish writing the story, y'all figure out who's killing him, why he's dying. But he makes a promise to Batman to take over the Batman, whatever, reign, the throne,
right,
and to not kill. He promises this to his father on his dying day. There you have it.
I that would be interesting because that would definitely be a struggle for Damian.
Yep.
And his terror, his thing would be like Batman's, no kill policy because of his parents. His catalyst would be not killing people because I think he actually enjoys it.
Yeah.
So that would be interesting. I think that's a good idea, though.
There you go, DC. James Gunn, get in your garage and start filming this thing.
Right.
But yeah, I think about that a lot, like the Damian. And I guess what turned me on to that idea was rewatching Batman and Son and then Batman vs. Robin, the animated films, which are phenomenal.
Right.
And I think the second one, Batman vs. Robin, is better. That's where we see this whole Court of Owls story, which that's a good comic that if you like that movie, check out the Court of Owls story. It's done very well. But seeing just, him, the level of skill that he had, like Damian's a badass.
Right.
I mean, he whooped Robin's ass, or Nightwing.
Right. I mean, he's Batman's son and the grandson of Ra's al Ghul.
Right.
I mean, he was trained as an assassin. Of course he's badass.
I mean, his mom, Talia's a beast too.
Right.
Talia whipped Catwoman's ass and Lady Shiva all at the same time.
Yep.
So yeah, I think he'd be a badass Batman. I think it'd be like the year 1, year 2 Batman where he's extra violent, and maybe that's his only thing, man. I ain't gonna kill because I promised to my dad. So there you go, DC. I figured out the movie for you.
Have you seen Batman and Superman Battle of the Super Sons?
Not yet, no.
Dude, you gotta watch it.
Yeah.
He's pretty crazy. He's funny in this.
Yeah.
But he's Damian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's great, dude. He's like the biggest asshole.
Right.
But like it's entertaining. It's fun.
Yep.
And he has like the thing about, here's what I like about him. He's a dick, but he can back it up.
Right. Yep. Absolutely.
And that almost makes you not a dick.
Right.
Right. He's not really arrogant.
Right.
He is, but he can back it up. So like, what are you gonna say?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Michael Jordan talked most shit out of everyone, but he can back it up, dude.
Right.
6 for 6.
Right.
What's up? You want to go? I mean, he's shooting foul shots with his eyes closed to fuck with people. That's the level of like fucked upness in Damian. Like so yeah, I'd love to see it. All right, well there you go. Rapid fire, agree to disagree. I'm gonna do a little better next week, Adrian. I'm gonna get some. Actually,
are you trying to get some no answers?
No, actually, I wasn't. I was just like, these are things that we've not really discussed here. So I'm like, I wonder where he falls on this. But
it was cool. It was fun. Yeah, it was fun. Bring it.
And now the first one, you had to think a little bit about.
Yeah,
Endgame.
yeah.
And my thing with that, like Endgame, obviously, it's the end of that series. It's a big, impactful movie. It probably has the best Avengers fight scene or best team fight scene in any movie.
Right.
I mean, that end scene with Thanos and the whole crew and everyone coming out of the portals, like, dude, I mean, my boy Jimmy, you talk about epic, dude.
Right.
Have you seen a fight, a battle, or forget about battle, an extended scene in a movie more epic than that?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't.
It was not in Avatar 2.
No. No, you're damn right about that. So that's why, that's epic. But I as a movie, a whole movie, Infinity War is better than Endgame, I believe. Endgame's a little uneven for me.
Okay.
There's some boring parts. It's extra long. I get that, but like it's a little slow in the beginning. And there's some things that. Now, it's a great movie, dude. We're talking like, is it a 9.5 or a 9.2? You know what I mean? It's not like, oh, this one's a 2. But as a whole, a movie that I enjoyed watching from start to finish, Infinity War. Infinity War as a whole is more rewatchable for me. Yeah. That one scene in Endgame, I'll watch a million times. But as a whole movie, I can start Infinity War and watch the whole thing right now. I'm good.
Right. I actually got to go back and review some content because, dude, you know how much content we've seen?
I know.
it's like you rattling off all these shows, last week, and I'm like, damn, that's a lot.
Oh yeah, we were going through the phases. Right. Yeah, there's a lot of shit, man. Yeah, that. I mean, I can't. I don't even remember the last time I went through like watching the original series of movies. I used to do that like when new movies would come out. But to your point, now there's so much other. It's like where do you start and stop?
Right. And those things we watched on our own, not even for this, not even for only comics. It's just the things that we like to entertain ourselves with. Yeah. That's a lot of content.
Absolutely.
Man. Cool.
Yep. Well, there you have it. New segment. We'll do it again next week. See how that works out. And then up next, last part of this show is Loki season 2.
Yep.
Episode 1. Mm-hmm. I forget. Did you watch the original season? Like when it first debuted, did you go back? And if you did, what did you think of it?
This was a Moon Knight movie. For me. I like Loki in bits and pieces.
Yeah.
Not continuously. So I didn't get into season 1.
Gotcha.
But I did watch the premiere of season 2. Mm-hmm. I was a little confused about what exactly was happening.
Yeah.
But I picked up enough to actually enjoy it, which was kind of cool. Yeah. The only thing I didn't get was the Medusa-looking robot head on the table. But we'll get to that, I guess.
Yep, I got you. I'm going to give you my Reader's Digest version of what happened. Right. So it'd be about 1 minute, and I'm going to miss a lot of shit. So basically, season 1 starts. You remember in Endgame, speak of Endgame, Loki has the Tesseract.
Yep.
Remember that scene when they go back in time to try to get it, and Hulk busts through the door, hits Tony Stark, the little case opens, Loki sees the Tesseract, picks it up, and moves through this portal real quick. Right. That didn't happen originally. That happened in Endgame. So this show is that Loki, that variant.
Okay.
When that happened, he ends up going to some other timeline somewhere. He's causing trouble. And again, this is Reader Digest version. He's causing trouble in different times, past, present, whatever. The TVA, the Time Variance Authority, they pick up on this. They find variants and they prune them, basically kill them, send them to this like limbo type place, right? Mm-hmm. They find Loki, bring him back to the TVA. What's my man? Mobius, Owen Wilson's character. He's kind of like almost like a cop who arrested him in a way.
Right.
So he's got him locked up. They bring him through and they explain all this stuff to him. Basically, Loki is a variant. Mm-hmm. And there's several other Loki variants. This is something that always happens. And they talk a lot about things that are supposed to happen, like the sacred timeline. You heard that a little bit in this one. So allegedly, in the beginning of that series, they tell Loki that there's timekeepers. Mm-hmm. There's timekeepers that keep the time, and that's what they do here at the TVA, and they've been here since the beginning of time, and there's one sacred timeline, and everything in that timeline was supposed to happen. Mm-hmm. He even brings up the Avengers going back in time. He's like, you should go after them. They went back in time, and they go, no, that was supposed to happen. Right. So that's kind of, the premise of it. There's this female Loki, Sylvie, which is a Loki variant from another universe where Loki was a female, right? And they it's weird. They kind of almost have this, like, love connection interest. Because what's funny, though, is Loki's so full of himself. Mm-hmm. Of course he would fall. Of course he'd fall in love with the girl version of himself. He loves himself.
Right, hooking up with himself.
Yeah. I mean, God, duh. That's got Loki written all over it, right? So they have this. They end up kind of having some interaction. They don't like each other, hate, whatever. Long story short, and again, I'm skipping a lot of shit.
Yep.
But
I'm following you.
They get to the end of time, okay? And that's where my man Jonathan Majors is, he who remains, okay? They get to this place, which is considered the end of time, and they're talking to him, and they believe that he's the one behind everything. Now, prior to this, you talk about that robot head, there's this throne room where the timekeepers are. They're like these big statues. I forget. I'm sure it was one of the Lokis, like, cuts the damn head off or whatnot, and they realize, like, oh, this is fake, it's bullshit.
Right. I think I saw Sylvie throw something at the middle one at the top, and it was Sylvie. And it cut the head off, basically.
Yep. So they find out it's not real. They find out that TVA has been lying to them. They find out that everyone in the TVA, they've been told that they were born there, that they're just have been part of the TVA. They're actually variants from other timelines that were kind of plucked out of the timeline, memory wiped, and they were kind of forced to work here.
Got it. Yep.
Right. So they have and then there's bits and pieces of them having some flashbacks of their real life in the first season, right?
So
that all gets uncovered. End of the show is a big mess. Loki and Sylvie are at this end of time type of place. Like it's almost like a castle, like up on the top of a hill, right? And outside the window, you literally could see the timeline, right? And He Who Remains is there. He explains to him that, or to them, he's basically Kang. He's the conqueror. He's like, I've had many names over the years, the conqueror, this, that, He Who Remains. And long story short, this dude was experimenting with time travel, and he would go back in time and go to different universes and take technology from the future, bring it back to time, blah, blah, blah. And he ended up basically going to war with himself because there's all these variants.
Right.
And then I guess he killed off all the variants. He Who Remains was the one who survived.
Got it.
And this is all we know at this point. So we know he's behind everything. And he basically tells these guys, you have two options. You guys can run the TVA now. It's yours. I've been doing it for too long. I'm done. And they want to kill him.
Right.
Sylvie does. Loki doesn't. And then he tells them, if you kill me, there's going to be infinite amounts of me that you're going to have to deal with. You don't want to do that.
Right.
Loki believes him. Sylvie doesn't. They get into this little fight. You remember Loki mentioned in this episode that he was thrown through a time door or some shit?
Right.
They're fighting. Sylvie, like, kicks him through some
a time door.
She kills He Who Remains. He's laughing like, okay.
Right.
And then we see the timeline starting to split when this happens.
Right.
And fast forward, you've not seen Ant-Man, but Kang the Conqueror is in Ant-Man. He is in the quantum realm. It's one of the variants that got sent to the quantum realm when I guess, He Who Remains was killing off all the Kangs. He's there, causes a big ruckus down there, yada, yada, yada. So essentially that's what happens at the end. Loki is then sent back to the TVA. The problem is, though, when he shows up, he sees these Kang heads like you see in the second season in place of where, like, the timekeepers were.
Right.
So we don't know at the time. Now, when you watch this episode, you learn that he was sent to the past. At the time, we just think everything's changed. So the season basically ends with Mobius coming over to Loki, and he doesn't know who Loki is. And Loki's like, don't you remember me? I was here a few minutes ago. And that's where it ends. Got it. So there you go. Nutshell. There's my 4-minute version of the first season. I'm sure I missed a lot of shit. I'm sure some of it wasn't right, but you get the gist of it.
I think I woke up enough times during the watching of season 1 that I'm tracking what you said.
You saw some of that.
Yeah.
Bits and pieces. Gotcha. Again, we are not experts here, are we, Adrian?
No, nope. We're definitely not.
We are only fans. Well, we're not only fans, but we're, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Only comics. So season 2, episode 1. Before we get into it, let's give out our score for this episode. I'm going to go with, I'll give it a 6.8. Give it a 6.8. Solid. What about you?
I'm good with that. I was actually thinking 7.
Yeah, you were? Okay. Well, you go say, hey, 7. First time you like something a little more than me.
Right.
It happens, But I say 6, and we've talked about this here. 6 is not a bad score.
No.
I mean, everything's not an 8 or 9. Like 6.8 means it was, for me, it's pretty good.
Right.
Now, I think before we get into the actual show, you know what I like the most about this show, this episode, Adrian, is it felt like an episode.
Right.
It ended on a cliffhanger, and now I want to see the second episode.
Right.
Not like shows like Secret Invasion where it's just a movie that's cut up into 6 parts, and 5 out of the 6 of them suck. So I like that. So you said 7, so you like this, you enjoyed it. I thought the whole, I called it glitching, but the whole phasing thing he was doing, time slipping, that was like kind of weird to look at.
Right. They kind of discussed that in the elevator.
Yeah.
And he was like, dude, it's not that bad. And he's like, yeah. But then when he actually did it in front of him, he's like, dude, can you please stop doing that? It's horrible. It's like you're dying and being reborn at the same time.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
It's like it was crazy. I mean, it's a crazy special effect.
It is,
though, dude.
yeah.
So.
Not like the special effects they had back in '97 on the Spawn movie.
No,
they didn't have no time slipping there.
Right.
So we see this, and in the beginning, we kind of see him bounce back between the 2 time zones, right? Like he's in the past where Kang is very present. So it seems like at one point everyone knew about Kang. Something must have happened where shit went, off course to where he now wiped everybody's memories, and now they believe in the timekeepers that aren't even a real thing. So we're starting to learn that there's a lot more to this TVA than what we expected, which I like stuff like that. I like things, stories where you don't give you everything in one shot. Like, let me kind of put these pieces together for myself. So I enjoyed that. I always, one of the highlights of the first season for me was Loki and Mobius's interactions. They're done, and they have great chemistry together, those two.
Right.
So that was cool. So what did you think about the beginning of this, the time slipping, and like, was that, because you don't remember the first season, was that a lot, or did you kind of get what was going on?
I got what was going on. The special effects was good. The comedy was good. A couple of things were convenient, but that was okay too.
You almost just expect that now with these movies.
Yeah. But I think they did a pretty good job of integrating it into this one. Yeah. So he starts out running. He jumps out the window. That was one of those things where it's like, okay, you blindly jump out of a window. You fall theoretically to some unknown height, and you land in the back of a cab. It would look like, or some rock truck or something, right? So that was like, okay, I can move past this, and then after that, it started picking up. So
yeah, I agree. There's definitely a lot of convenience in these films, and I guess where I'm at with that, like, if the show is overall good, it doesn't bother me as much.
Right, exactly.
When there's things like The Flash or Secret Invasion, where like, oh, you conveniently scooped up all the blood from every Avenger, like, that is where I go, that's stupid. I got to throw a flag on that one.
Right.
But no, I like the setup for this. I agree the humor was not bad. I didn't hate it, because the TVA is like a weird place anyways. Like, and a lot of things that were humorous to the audience, it wasn't humor to them because of how freaking odd everyone is there.
Right. It's like a retro 50s feel to it.
Yeah.
Everybody, despite the fact that, Loki is transforming and disappearing, reappearing in front of everybody. Everybody's just doing a little work. Nobody's paying attention. It's like,
nobody cares.
We've seen that, so many times, blah, 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 blah. So, that was cool.
It's kind of like, it's weird because it feels retro and futuristic at the same time. The TV, like, there's some parts of it that look like, oh, this is some shit in the future.
Right.
But yes, the design, the look, the colors, the feel, it does look like some old 50s stuff.
Right. Like that big ass pipe on the back of Mobius's back when he goes out. Yeah. And put that thing in whatever, and it starts shit. I'm like, really? You got to drag this?
Oh,
you got to drag this 12-inch hose around. Oh, yeah, that was ridiculous.
Yeah, that was a little much. And then when Loki comes back and just saves him, like, here I am.
Right.
See, that's a thing that it happens in a lot of movies where they have to draw things out to make it more dramatic. And I actually wish that they would stop. I wish they would just do it in real time. It doesn't make it more dramatic.
Right.
It just makes the viewer impatient because you know that Loki's going to come save him.
Right.
I'd much rather Loki landed with enough time to walk in there with him than him bounce off the fucking floor, roll, grab him, and go. Like, it's always that.
Well, but if he walked in there with him, then it's like, well, Loki doesn't have a suit on. Why does he need a suit with an 18-inch pipe drug 10 miles down the road? It kind of makes sense that he kind of like slingshotted back.
But it doesn't need to be the last minute to when the door's about to close.
Right.
That's when it's too much.
Yeah. I mean, the door's about to close on this hose or whatever.
Right.
And Loki just, rubber bands back and they shoot them both through the door and the door closes shut.
That's when it's too much.
It's weird.
You seen The Last of Us? The Last of Us? You ever watch the show on HBO?
Yes, I did.
My biggest issue with that show, it's going to sound stupid, but you remember when, I think it's Tess is her name, she's in the I forget the building, but anyway, she's about to sacrifice herself.
Right.
And the lighter.
Well, she's about to be sacrificed. I don't think she knows what's going on until after the fact.
Well, she's lighting the lighter to set the shit on fire. She knew she was infected at that point.
Right.
And then she's like, I'm going to blow everything up because I'm infected anyways. She was buying Joel and them time. But the lighter, dude, you've used a lighter, right? Yeah. I've used a lighter. If you're going to flick it 1,400 times, it's not going to go on. It's not about how many times you flick the lighter, dude. And it's like, why do we need to do that?
Right. It's like I go to the ATM and you see these people up here, they put in the code and the thing spits out a ticket error or something like that. You want to tell them, you need to have money in the bank in order to get money out of it. You just can't keep pressing buttons and thinking that the money's going to come out the hole.
Well, if it was a movie, they would do it 12 times, and then all the money would come out, right?
Yep.
Like, and that's it. We don't need to do that. We don't need to do everything. Doesn't need to be last minute. Like, so. Anyways, but no, I again, I like their interaction. I like where the story's going. One thing that was, I guess, let's discuss the time travel part of this, because if you remember in Endgame, when they talked about time travel, they originally, what's his name, Ant-Man, thought about it in the old Back to the Future way, right? You do something in the past, it affects the future.
Right.
If I go back in time and slap my mom in the face, like, she's gonna remember it and be mad about it. Like, it's
right.
So in Endgame, they said it's not the case. You go back in time and change stuff. What it does is it creates another reality.
It creates a split.
A split.
Right.
Yep. Where this reality is still intact.
Right.
Right. So I go back in time and kill somebody. Well, in my reality, they're still going to be there. There's now another split reality where that person's dead, essentially. Right.
Yep.
Now, I have, at first, seeing this time travel in Loki made me think, oh, wait, now they're kind of contradicting themselves. But I have a theory as to why it makes sense. So
Hold on. So in Batman, no, not in Batman, in Flash.
Yep.
See, it was so much Batman in the Flash. I thought it was
you
a Batman
thought it was
movie.
Batman.
So in the Flash, Michael Keaton, Bruce Wayne was saying that, well, when you go back in time and you change time, it not only changes the future, but it also changes the past. So that's another spin on,
with the spaghetti. He
with the spaghetti
said, like, everything just goes all over the place. Yeah.
Right.
Which is, and I think, you know what that was, Adrian? That was a plot device that was included just so they could bring George Clooney back.
There you go.
Because it would make sense that at the end of the movie, it would have just been Ben Affleck's Batman because he's back in the main universe.
Right.
So they had to screw up the rules to bring George Clooney back. So
there
maybe
you go.
That's why. But to your point, it works differently in every movie, right?
Or maybe he has some blood from a spider from another universe, and when they send him back, he actually got put in a different universe as opposed to his own, which the universe of George Clooney.
Yes, absolutely. So I guess when it comes to time travel, no one really knows.
Right. Nobody knows.
But prior to this in the MCU, what was established is what we talked about with the branch timeline.
Yep.
Now there's a scene where the guy Obi, he's like a repair guy, right?
Right.
So after they come back,
another genius they pulled from under their couch.
Of course, another genius. But after they realize, okay, Loki's time slipping.
Yep.
Mobius is like, we got to go see. I know who we need to go see. Right. He's like the repair guy. Brings him down there, and he's time slipping. And the guy goes, "You can't time slip in the TVA." He's like, "Yeah, but we just saw him do it."
Right.
But if you remember early on in their conversation, Obi mentions that he's seen Mobius before, and Mobius knew how to get there. And then he's like, "I don't remember ever being here though, but I know I've been here." So we start to see some inconsistencies, right? And then Obi mentions the fact that, oh yeah, you were here before. And remember, Mobius is trying to play along because he honestly doesn't remember, right? Yep. He's like, "I was here for a while," right? He's like, "No, you just left. Yeah, like it was like 400 years." And then because Mobius, I think at this point they're still on the fence of whether they believe Loki in the fact that they're all variants,
right?
Because some of them don't want to believe it, right? So what we see in this scene is Loki's time slipping. And I guess with the time slipping, you go back in time, but you're in the same area that you were in the future, right? So he time slips, and he's down in the same place with Obi, but it's in the past.
Right.
So he's going back.
So your physical location doesn't change. You just change time.
Just change time.
Got it.
But what we see here contradicts Endgame because things that Loki is saying to Obi in the past, Obi in the present is starting to remember. Like that whole... the temporal loom, the thing that you talked about here to put out on the he's like he doesn't have one, but then Loki in the past tells him to create one, and he's like, "Hey, leave this here for my friend Mobius," and then in real time he's like, "Oh yeah, by the way, I have this here." So we're seeing the past affect the future,
correct,
which contradicts Endgame. Now, before I give you my theory, what are your thoughts on that? You think it's inconsistent, or you think there's a valid reason for it?
I'm sure the valid reason is to make the show 45 minutes long.
Okay.
Outside of that, don't care.
All right. I'm gonna now. This is a part I left out of the my Reader's Digest version earlier. So what we'll do is we'll edit this in and we'll drop it into that part of the show. No, we won't. So in the first season, when Loki shows up to the TVA, there's several instances in the season where Loki questions the time, and the statement they always say is time works differently in the TVA. Because they asked him, well, how long you been here? He's like, I don't really know. Time works differently here, right? So I'm thinking that normally my mind goes where you are. They just made it up for the script.
Right.
But I'm thinking that because the TVA manages this sacred timeline, the actual timeline, and that time does work differently in the TVA, that when they go back in time there, I don't think the TVA exists in other universes. I think it just exists in time, right? Past, present, future.
Yep.
So maybe because of that reason, going back in time in the TVA does affect the future because that's the only timeline. It's not going to branch out.
So the TVA's time has a null value on the multiverses. In other words, it is consistent and continuous. You can go back in time, stay in the same physical location, and it's cause and effect.
Right.
When you go back in time. In the other universes, when you go back in time, you either get the branches or the splits or the past and the future change.
Right.
I can buy that.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And I think that's where they would it would make sense if they go there with this, because
it would, because they wouldn't be able to do the job that they think that they're doing if they went back and they were in different universes and all this other kind of stuff, and they wouldn't be able to affect the things that they do. That makes sense. I like that.
There you go. So, hey, if you guys didn't figure that out, Marvel, I'm sure you have. But
I'm sure you have.
Sure you but I mean, that makes perfect sense, because also we've never heard of any other TVA outside of this one, which seems to be in its own timeline.
Right.
So maybe that's like the nucleus up top, and all the timelines branch off of that.
Right.
So I'm going with that.
Well, you don't see the cops until they turn the lights on either. So.
Yeah, that's true. Absolutely. And then, so basically, they're trying to fix this time slipping. That's pretty much what this episode's about, right? And
all about Loki.
All about Loki. Obi says that this temporal loom, you put it out, I don't know, you put it out in space somewhere, you turn it on, it's going to pull Loki from wherever he's at back into this timeline.
Right.
But then they also said he has to prune himself. And if he doesn't do that, he will pretty much be lost in time forever.
Right.
Loki then, he time slips to the future. You know, if you picked up on that, he said it that right around this time where he's supposed to prune himself, he slips into the future, and he's at the same place, because if you remember, Mobius wrote skin on the computer because Obi told him that if you're out there too long, essentially you're going to burn up and your skin's going to burn off. So he wrote skin on the computer, on the dust in the computer. So when, conveniently,
it's dusty as hell.
Yeah. So Loki, when he goes to the future, he sees that and he's like, oh shit, because he thought he was back in the past again. He's like, wait a minute, I'm in the future now, because that's old.
Right.
And then he sees Sylvie there. Remember, she's in the elevator.
Right. Waiting for him.
Waiting for him. And he's been looking for her.
Right.
So now every part of him wants to go there, because, he loves himself and he loves some Sylvie. But he does prune himself at the last minute, right? And this is the part we were talking about earlier where, he's out there with that. It's like, you remember in E.T., they had those big, tunnels?
Right.
It looks like he had that on his back.
Exactly.
It was like that big.
Exactly. I didn't get that part where he pruned himself. I didn't know if he did it to himself or Sylvie did it to him, because how did he prune himself? What did he prune himself with?
He had the thing that they gave him.
No, I thought he dropped that when he transformed or whatever. I thought he dropped that right next to him, right in front of Mobius.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, because he didn't have it when he was walking down that hall. And he heard the telephone ring, and then the elevator started opening up, or Sylvie was opening the elevator. Yeah. So I think that she actually had something to prune him with, because as soon as he disappeared, that wand or staff or whatever dropped.
Got it. I'm gonna have to go back and check, because now that you're saying that, I'm not entirely sure of who the hell pruned who.
Right.
Yeah. So either way, he was pruned, and I'm even looking up. It says before he is pruned. So I don't even know who did that. So again, if y'all want to correct us in the comments, let us know.
Or maybe I was just, waking up again and saw something I didn't see.
Maybe.
So maybe.
One of us remembers it right. You know, who the hell knows? But either way, he was pruned at the last minute. But yeah, he was, the phone kept ringing. I forget, did he answer the phone?
No, he didn't. No. What was the point of that too? To draw him to the elevator? I don't get it.
But then where was the show longer too?
Right, everybody was gone.
Yeah, so we don't know what happened in that time from when he was in that room into the future. But anyways, he gets pruned, or prunes himself, or Sylvie prunes him. We're not sure.
Which is
about
still
that.
Pruning himself.
Yeah, exactly. So he's pruned at the last possible second. He then comes out of this timeline, tackles Mobius. They roll back into the the door just into the nick of time.
Just in the nick of time.
Of course. And then that's when Loki says we got to find Sylvie. Mm-hmm. And then we kind of see all of these like troops, these TVA officers
packed with military. I mean, they are military, but they were going to war with something.
Dude, there was a ton of them going through these portals.
Right.
And the chick, I forget her name, something 15, BD15. Yeah, something like that. But she actually I'll tell you, Hunter B15. There you go. Which I liked her character in the first one. And she's like, where's everybody going? Even she's confused.
Right.
And we just see them all running. And I think someone said, like, that's not for Sylvie. Like, they ain't sending that many people for her, bro. Chill. Right. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think that's about where the show ends, right? Loki goes running off. And, yeah, they're ordered to search for her. But I don't know that all of them are going to search for her.
Right.
Who knows?
Next week?
Yeah, next week we'll find out. So I like the cliffhanger. Did you see the post-credit scene? Did you know there was one?
No. I've gotten to the point where, because the credits are so long, the actual words, it's like Star Wars, long going of galaxy far and far away. Yeah. It's like, dude, I can't sit there and watch all this stuff.
I just fast forward.
So, there's that.
There you go.
But no, I didn't watch the post credits.
Got it. And I don't normally check, but something told me, like, I don't know, there might be one in this one. Because Loki, not all of the MCU shows have had post credit scenes. Mm-hmm. Movies, for the most part, I think every movie but Endgame probably had a post credit scene, but not all the shows do. And even Loki, there was only certain episodes in the first season that had post credits. But I do remember them being like a good teaser for the next episode.
Okay.
So in this one, Sylvie ends up entering a branch timeline somewhere in like Oklahoma in 1982 and walks into a McDonald's in the 80s, which is actually a pretty cool scene. Like, it looks authentic McDonald's. Uh-huh. She walks in. Everyone's dressed in like regular clothes. She's got her little low-key Sylvie outfit on. Mm-hmm. And she's like going to the counter, and she almost doesn't even know what to order. Because, I mean, she's like a savage going from, like, universe to universe. She's like, what do you want? He's like, something that doesn't have a face and isn't alive. And he's like, we got Big Macs. And, like, it was a cool little scene.
Okay.
So, and I do remember from the marketing that they did some marketing with McDonald's because McDonald's was featured in this. Mm-hmm. And I even remember in the previews seeing Sylvie working at McDonald's, so this is going to be interesting.
Well, I mean, some of the McDonald's commercials that have been coming out feature, it's like the whole commercial is about all the movies that McDonald's was in.
Oh, I saw that one, yeah.
And Loki was one of them.
Yep.
So
yeah, so that was like a teaser.
It was actually pretty cool.
Yeah, that commercial was cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess we'll see where this leads, but I thought it was a decent little stinger.
Yep.
Bring back to the 80s. I mean, listen, anytime you do some stuff in the 80s is usually pretty cool.
Yeah. They did that in Captain Marvel too, right? When she crashed into the blockbusters.
90s, but yeah.
90s, whatever. 80s, 90s.
Another good decade, but yeah. So and that's one, as much as that's not my favorite movie, but I think my favorite aspect of that movie is that it was shot in the 90s and it was 90s.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm actually excited for next week, dude.
But you know what? In that show, they messed up Sam's toupee as badly as they did his beard in Secret Wars.
Yeah.
Wow. Secret Invasion or whatever it was.
Yeah. I wish it was Secret Wars instead. Yeah, well, it was. I would argue, though, the beard was worse than the toupee. They both were pretty bad.
Yeah,
though.
Yeah.
But yeah, he did have that was an interesting toupee. Anyway, so yeah, dude, overall, like I said, 6.5. You said 7. Or no, I said 6.8. 6.8. Yeah, it was definitely up there. And I mean, I wouldn't I'm not mad at 7 either. I could be talked up to a 7 after going through this. But I think what I like the most, like I said, is it feels like a show. It feels like one episode, and it does make me want to know what the hell's going to happen next week.
Right.
Well,
my thing is that because of this show, I will probably sit this week and probably watch season 1. I think it's on like 6 shows anyway.
Yeah, it's only 6 episodes.
So I've seen one of them. So I mean, I'll probably go through and knock it out again.
Yeah,
knock it out.
Dude, they're good.
So just to have more context.
Yeah.
But because it was entertaining, I still can't do Moon Knight though. I just can't do it.
No, Moon Knight. I actually enjoyed it, but I would say it took like the 3rd or 4th episode for me to like really get into it. Really? It was one of those slow moving shows in the beginning. Yeah. But no, Loki, you're right. It was short. It was good. It did feel like a show. Every episode felt like an actual episode. There's a ton of Loki variants you get to see that are pretty fun. Some look very comic accurate. Like there's a damn alligator Loki at some point. It's I mean, you've liked all the Spider-Verse stuff. It kind of feels like it fits in that genre. You know.
Well, but I tell you, I saw the, One Who Remains, the Jonathan Majors portrayal. I can understand why they wrapped a lot of stuff around this kid. I mean, he went in.
Yeah, he did.
He went in.
Yeah.
I mean, he did an excellent job in that acting, and
you're talking just from this episode. Or did you see him in the first season? You didn't ever see the end?
I saw him when Sylvie and Loki was there, and Sylvie was trying to kill him.
Yeah. The flashbacks.
Yeah. So I was like, wow.
Yeah, and that's a small piece, dude. That scene is pretty. Like most of that episode is that scene.
Really?
There's a lot of back and forth, a lot of dialogue, and he freaking kills it, dude. Nice. So I think, if anything, just watch the last episode. But,
right.
I mean, I've gone back and rewatched that episode a handful of times because it gives you a good idea of what Marvel's planning for the multiverse, or at least how the multiverse works in the MCU, because he does a good job of explaining it.
Right.
But yeah, it was awesome. So there you have it. Loki, we'll be reviewing episode 2 next week here on Only Comics. We'll be back with another hidden gem, right? And then we will do another round of Agree to Disagree.
There you go.
Hey, we were actually pretty on point. But maybe we'll keep track of how many times we disagreed and see. Yeah.
So what this week? One?
Only one this week. Yeah.
Cool.
Yep. So I'll dig deep into my opinions here. I'm gonna have, as they call them, Adrian, some hot takes maybe next week.
Maybe.
Anyway, well, Adrian, appreciate you coming in. Appreciate you doing this.
No problem.
Guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for all the feedback. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. And we appreciate, I love all the interaction, good, bad, and different. It's a lot of fun.
Right.
I mean, for the most part, everyone's been pretty cool, and then not afraid to point out where they agree, disagree, and that's what it's about, man. Have some fun.
Right.
Share our opinions.
That's it.
Yep. So there you have it. Next week, we'll be back. We'll see you then. I'm Mike. This is Adrian. We're Only Comics, where we discuss comics and only comics every Monday, 5:30 Eastern Standard Time. We'll see you next week.